Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of WWT Experts. My name is Matthew Coble, and I'll be the host today, as always. And today we'll be talking with WWT expert Neil Anderson, an AVP in our Global Solutions and Architecture team. As such, Neil focuses on our cloud, data center, networking, artificial intelligence, and automation solutions. Neil's been with Worldwide Technology for over 10 years now, and throughout his career, he's advised many large organizations about global architectures, IT strategies, and that's traversed lots of different clients, lots of different industries, and lots of different technologies. So while he regularly works with our teams and our clients on all kinds of stuff like that, today we're going to focus our conversation on AI and all things cloud. Neil, good to see you, man.
Hey, good to see you, Matt.
Welcome to St. Louis. Nice to have you in town. All right. So Neil, there's a lot of talk on the market right now about AI, all things AI. We're all hearing about it in the business media, tech media, the mainstream media. But in recent years, clouds have been a big deal too. So, you're seeing both of those things. Like, what is the right way to think about the relationship between cloud computing and artificial intelligence?
Well, just like the computing side and for normal workloads, the cloud providers have been investing heavily in AI infrastructure to run those type of workloads. And so there's a direct relationship there between cloud and cloud consumption, as well as what's going on with AI. And you're right, there's been just a tremendous amount of interest thanks to generative AI.
Yep.
AI's been around for a long time. It's not new. I think what's really new is generative AI is sort of put a kick in everybody's step to really get moving on their AI strategy.
Yeah, so and investments, in cloud are driving faster adoption and spend on AI too, right? And the majority of today's AI applications that people out there in the world may be using are probably running in one of the major clouds. So there's really a pretty deep symbiotic relationship between AI and cloud computing. Is that fair to say? Yeah,
absolutely. And the cloud providers have made it just pretty easy to consume it, right? Rather than having to build a complex infrastructure on premise, the cloud providers have all made it very available and very easy to, start to, get experience with AI and what you want to do long term with it. Will that stay that way? We're not sure, but yeah. we think that it is a great place to go and sandbox different ideas and applications to figure out like what do you want to do with AI and what can it do.
Mm-hmm. Well, so tell us about some of the top benefits and also the top challenges that you see going on as people think about doing things with AI in cloud computing environments.
Yeah, I mean, we've been experiencing an AI for about 10 years at Worldwide. So we've been doing different AI types of work and models, whether it's digital twins or inference engines, machine learning. Generative AI is just the newest, in the portfolio, and we've got experience with that as well. But it's definitely something our customers are concerned about. As I said, generative AI has lit a fire under a lot of customers. A lot of boards are asking their IT departments, what is our AI strategy? How are we going to embrace the technology? And so we see a lot of customers trying to get their arms around it. And there are concerns. How am I going to use it? Is it secure? If I make my data part of the model, is it going to be out in the public? Which can happen if you're not careful. So governance and security and data privacy is a huge concern for our customers that they're trying to get their arms around.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that because I'm thinking about out in the marketplace, Gen AI. We all see that and we think, oh, it's magical, it's easy. And I think a lot of those boards you're talking about, other kind of business executives, have that perception too. But what are, if you were enumerating some of what are all the things you need to really think about to do AI effectively and smartly, securely, and responsibly?
Yeah, there's a number of concerns and you have to get your arms around. I would say, one of the most top concerns right now is really just how do I start? Where do I get started with it? Where do I run those workloads is another question. Do I run them in cloud? Should I build an on-premise infrastructure to run them? What about my data privacy? Is it secure? How do I do it in a secure way? Are the open models like ChatGPT and others, are those going to be accurate for my business problem that I'm trying to solve with AI? And we have a lot of those answers for customers. We can help govern, help them with their security concerns, help them choose whether, which cloud they want to build it in, or do they want to build it on-prem for privacy reasons. And we can also help them basically take those public models and then tune them for the business problem that they're trying to solve to make those models just far more accurate, for the output that you're going to get from the prompt, for example.
Yeah. Well, another thing I know we're working on is, all the things related to data and making sure that the data is designed to deliver really great outcomes with AI, right? And putting together data strategies for organizations.
Absolutely, and that's a big part of it, as well as, we have a saying in our team, which is, the data or the model is only going to be as good as the data is. Mm-hmm. So if your data is not accurate, it's not, you haven't strategically thought about what data really needs to be part of that model and tuned it with the right data, you're not going to get really a great outcome from it. So data strategy,
not do much, right?
Yeah, garbage in, garbage out, right? If you don't have a good data set and a good strategy for your data, you're probably not going to be that successful with a model.
Yeah. Well, I know we hear about generative AI, but what are some of the other AI applications that are most commonly used in cloud environments, or even what are some of the use cases that you see being implemented most often?
We've worked with customers for a number of years on machine learning, just being able to ingest data and then use that to make smarter decisions. Or, for example, there's IoT use cases around being able to bring in a lot of sensor data, crunch that data, apply machine learning to it, and then essentially be smart about what you're gonna do with that data. Maybe it alerts a trigger or something like that. So that's one type. Another type is digital twins. We see a lot of customers that are trying to create a model of something, a virtual model of a physical thing, like a complex machine that they want to basically be able to explore virtually and not have to actually go into or look at the physical thing. That's another type that we see. And then of course, generative AI is obviously exploding on the scene, and the power of that, I think anybody who's tried out those public models it's pretty impressive. It demos itself very well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think part of why that's magical today is because, ChatGPT and some of, the visual engines that are out there, you can sort of see quickly the results of what the AI is doing, whereas historically that was harder to see perhaps for the average person.
Absolutely, and to me, generative AI comes down to sort of productivity, right? Yeah. There's a lot of, I think, a little bit of fear or a little bit of trepidation around, well, is this going to take people's jobs? Is it going to replace people? And I don't look at it that way. I look at it as it's really going to enhance people. It's going to make people far more productive. The things that might have taken you 3 weeks to do, like writing a document, you can get an excellent start in a matter of seconds. And now you become an editor versus having to start from scratch all the time on a proposal or on a document you're trying to write. And so I just look at it as, I think it's going to be a fantastic change to just make us almost like, I look at it like a co-pilot that's going to help me be far more productive as a person.
Yeah, I agree. And then take away some of that administrative stuff that we have to do every day and sort of give us more time to do the deep thinking, the creativity, the higher value aspects of our jobs.
And when you look at it through that lens, back to your question about what types of applications, I think there's, it's almost like we're just scratching the surface on what this could be used for, right?
Yeah. For sure.
Internally, we've looked at, I think we identified something like 70 use cases to consider for how we're going to consume AI ourselves as WWT. And I think we prioritized down to a top 10, but just fantastic things that are going to transform our own business and the way that we operate. And having that experience is also helping us to help guide customers about what they could do with it.
Yeah, I love the way, I've been part of some of those conversations too, and I love that we're doing that ourselves to make our own company more productive. And like you say, learning, the challenges, the pitfalls, the opportunities to better inform our clients too, which is great. So recently we had Derek Monahan join us for an expert session, and he talked a lot, we focused on high performance architectures. And I know that should necessarily extend into cloud environments too, but some aspect of HPA is on premise as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, what's your thoughts about how organizations are going to be thinking about high-performance architectures to support AI, and how does that mirror with the cloud strategy the organization may already have? Is it going to disrupt it fully, or is it just become a new part of it, or how do you blend those things together?
Yeah, it's a great question, and Worldwide's got a lot of experience building high-performance architectures. We've been doing that for quite a while for some of the largest organizations on the planet.
Yep.
And so it's a subject that we have just a ton of experience with. And when you look at the cloud environments, those are pre-built high-performance architectures with some of the same technologies that you would use if you were building one yourself. It just happens to be it's already built. You can go consume it from the cloud. Mm-hmm. And we think that there will also be some customers that say, possibly for data privacy reasons, or they're just nervous about putting their intellectual property out in the cloud. You can think about industries and regulated industries that are just super nervous about that. We think that they will possibly maybe experiment in cloud, but maybe they will bring it on-prem and build their own high-performance, purpose-built architecture for those kinds of workloads where they just want that extra privacy or control of that environment.
And do you think they're going to have to do that to protect intellectual property and for privacy concerns and that sort of thing? Or do you think we'll get to a place where that's doable in a mix of kind of on-premise and in cloud environments?
Yeah, I think if you sort of rewind the clock on cloud, I can remember a time where people were nervous
about putting stuff in the cloud.
Putting anything in cloud, right? And I think we're past that, right? Every customer I talk to, even 5 years ago when they said we will never be in cloud, they're in cloud, right? So
right.
It's just not something that I think is a fear. But I see that sort of same pattern kind of developing a little bit with AI and generative AI.
Yeah.
Is customers are, again, they just have a sort of trepidation like, well, where's my data going to go? If this is, and if you think about it, the data that you're putting out there is probably the most important data for your company if you're going to invest in this, right? It's probably your crown jewels that's living under those models. So you got to be really careful about where that goes, obviously, right? But I do think that I think that fear will subside, right? And I've already seen the cloud providers reacting to that fear and saying, you know what, we have to figure out how to provide customers a secure private environment so that they can trust that their data is not going to mix with other people's data and not going to be exposed on the, to everyone. So I think we'll get past that. But right now it's sort of in that little bit of the fear cycle, right?
Well, and it's interesting you talk about like that was the fear cycle of cloud when cloud came along, right?
100%.
And we've gotten over it. So
I'm old enough to remember when there was a fear about wireless networks, right?
All my data is going to leak on the wireless.
I remember IT organizations saying, we're never going to deploy Wi-Fi. It's not secure. Like, how are we going to do that? And then what did people do? They go down the street to the Best Buy and buy a Linksys router and plug it in. There you go, right? They've got wireless. Right. Now it's shadow IT.
Right.
And so that's another important point, Matt, is I think that the organizations, there's sort of two camps I see out there. One is, wow, we're just going to pretend this isn't happening and we're going to block access to it and tell people that we have a policy against using it. And then there's another part of the organizations that are, they're just trying to embrace it really quickly and stand up a sandbox for them employees to use it responsibly and safely. And I side with the latter because I think, we've seen these instances of shadow IT. People said we'll never be in cloud. Well, with a credit card swipe, some business unit, they're in cloud, and now it's outside of your RT. Same thing with wireless happened, and I think you're going to see that same sort of pattern evolve here. If you don't provide that environment for employees to really get experience with it, they're going to find a way to do it themselves.
Yeah, so organizations should really embrace it and think about, let's experiment, let's embrace. And I know that it's something that we can help them do within our Advanced Technology Center with existing labs and proofs of concepts that we can do there too, right?
Yeah, 100%. And this is what's really cool is we have these high performance architectures pre-built in our labs. We know how they work. We know how to guide customers to this flavor of the architecture or that flavor, what's going to be best for their particular application model. So we've been, just like we've done that for years with other technologies, we've got an AI lab that we can show customers these different technologies and help them make that choice and then be on their way. Whether it's cloud or it's on-prem, we have both of those running in our lab today.
Yeah, that's excellent. All right, well, I want to shift a little bit, going back to cloud for a minute. I know that organizations are focusing a lot all the time on kind of cost management, optimization, and those aspects of their cloud relationship. So now that AI is part of the mix, how does that affect cost management and optimization?
Yeah, I think it's early, and certainly cost optimization is a huge issue for our customers when just in cloud in general.
Yeah.
They're really struggling to get their arms around what's my cloud consumption look like? How much is that costing me? Am I using it effectively? And getting the most, getting out of cloud what I thought I was going to get out of cloud, right? The agility and the speed, but am I doing it at the right cost? And AI is a whole new ballgame. I sort of look at it this way as, it's one thing to be able to sort of estimate what's the cost of a credit card transaction if I run it on-prem or if I run it in cloud. I can get a pretty good idea about what that's going to cost per transaction. With AI, it's a little bit trickier because the cost of that transaction is going to really vary based on what you're asking it to do. Yeah. And it could change from minute to minute. And so it's not as predictable, right? Yeah. And so I think it's going to be super important for us to be able to help our customers to understand those costs. What if you're going to have this application running in cloud with AI, like what is that relative cost going to be per transaction? And it's trickier than just normal cloud consumption.
Yeah. Well, I imagine too a lot of the kind of background information about what's possible and how to do it, we're still figuring out, right? So you can't, there's no reference that you can look to understand what to do.
Yeah, you're exactly right. People, if you ask the question, well, how much is generative AI going to cost me in cloud? The answer is, I don't know. What are you going to do with it, right?
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, so if we think about the cloud environments, another thing I think organizations and individuals are thinking about is responsible AI and also security, right? And we talked about security a little bit, but is it the case that we'll be able to just sort of count on the cloud providers to look after that aspect of things, or do organizations really need to be mindful themselves about responsible, ethical AI and also the security that goes on with AI?
Yeah, I think that today, there are open models, and if you go out and use them, like ChatGPT, your whatever you ask at the prompt is sort of becoming part of the model. That you have to sort of assume that. But already seeing those models evolving to this concern, where you can have a private instance that what you ask does not become part of the public model. It's just it's a context that just stays private. And also we're seeing the evolution of, being able to have a cloud service that is a private instance of that model. It just happens to be running in cloud. That's fine. And I think as customers get more comfortable with that, they will turn to those kind of private slices of AI in the cloud as a way to address some of the security challenges that they've got there.
Yeah. Okay, so imagine we're sitting down with a new client or a new part of a client organization that we already have, and we're the question is like, all right, we have all these investments in cloud, and now there's all this stuff going on with AI. What are the top 3 to 5 things we really need to think about to get started? I know many aren't still getting started, but we're opening that conversation with a client. What are you telling them to think about in that first meeting?
Yeah, I mean, the first discussion is typically, what do you want to do with it? What problem are you trying to solve, right? And we need to make sure we really understand that, because that's going to lead to the other points about, okay, so what's the basis model that we're going to use, and how much is that going to require training of that model and pruning of that model to right size it for the specific problem you're trying to address with AI. So that's first and foremost, it's what are you trying to do with it, right? And then that will lead into, okay, which model do we feel is appropriate? And then another important one is, what are the data sources that if you're going to apply to your model, do you have good data? Does it need to be cleaned? Does it need to be correlated with other data before it becomes part of the model? Like that data process is another thing that we need to do. And then, I would say probably third or fourth is, what experience does your team have to run this yourselves? Or where do you need help, right? Do you need help and experience understanding how to build a model, how to build a high performance architecture, or how to consume it in cloud? Like where am I going to need help would be the sort of the third thing I would talk about with customers.
Yeah. Well, and build on that a little bit too, if you would. Like, how are you counseling customers and clients to kind of think about, training and development for their teams, right? Because all this AI stuff is new, and so presumably we're going to have to learn some new stuff too.
Yeah, it is brand new, and what we're finding, Matt, is actually generative AI is sort of the hot topic that got this flywheel rolling.
Yeah.
But if you look at what it really did, it really just it made it, sort of consumable or apparent to everybody, the average person, like, what's the power of this, right? AI, as I said, AI is not new, but then you how do you get your teams trained on that, right? It's brand new technology for most of them, and even though generative AI might have been the impetus for the board suddenly is kicking the IT director like, hey, well, what is our strategy here? We need to get moving. What we often find is that it is their first experience with AI in general. Mm-hmm. So, even just level setting them on what is AI, what can it do, what are the components of AI, that's typically where we find a lot of customers are at right now and we can provide that education. And that's where we just did it for a customer the other day where, they got wound up about generative AI. Oh, we need a strategy. But then when we get into the conversation, we thought we were going to have a conversation about, all right, here's how you build generative AI. And it turned into a much longer conversation about what is AI? What are the components of it? What can it do? Just pure education before we can even get to the generative AI discussion.
Yeah, and I think that's okay. I mean, that's a lot of where a lot of organizations are. And also think, that's one of the reasons I like what we do for a living, that there's always these new technologies, new things to learn, and you continually advance your knowledge and tackle new challenges, right?
Yeah, 100%. That's what we do at Worldwide, which makes my job super fun.
Super fun.
I love understanding new technology and then educating our customers on what it is, how it works, how to use it.
Yeah.
And it just makes just a really fun job.
Going from that to then connecting to like this good business outcome is super rewarding. All right, last question for you. I always like to ask our experts to prognosticate a little bit, look into the future, right? So if you look out, 2 years, 5 years, think about the world of AI, the world of cloud, what are you looking forward to seeing out there?
As I mentioned earlier, I'm looking forward for, sort of personal productivity. I think that's going to be fantastic. Mm-hmm. In the future, I think we're going to be able to, especially when you sort of look at multimodal AI, which is including images and graphics and those kind of things, I think it's going to be entirely possible in the future to say, hey, I need a presentation tomorrow for this customer and this subject, and I'll have 30 slides created for me, which then I can go in and verify the accuracy, edit a little bit. But rather than creating those 30 slides from scratch, I've just got an excellent productivity. So I think we're all going to see that. I think we're going to see this affect everyone's jobs. How you do your job is going to be different. And just like wireless, going back to that analogy, like my children don't even know what Ethernet is. Like they don't know what a cable is. They've grown up with wireless. It's just part of their lives. And I think the kids that are growing up now, AI is going to be part of their lives. So when they get into the workforce, Matt, hopefully we're retired with a lot of money because they're probably going to take our jobs. But anyway, that's some of my thoughts for the future.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. And I'm also like you, an optimist about this. That it's going to enhance productivity. It's going to create new experiences for us, new art, new music, and all the rest. So I'm excited about it too. Well, Neil Anderson, last time you're up on the big screen. Today you're right here in person. Love having you here at our global headquarters. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. It's awesome to be here in person.
Yeah, good to see you. Hey, and thank you for coming and joining us today. It's another great expert session. We've got new ones coming out all the time. Lots in the back catalog that you can watch on demand at your leisure. www.com/events. You can check that out. And those of you who joined us may get a survey. Love to hear some feedback from you, or feel free to email me, email Neil, get in touch, and we'd be happy to talk. Thanks for coming today. We'll see you next time.